Welcome to Subramani. Being over optimistic is something which we have grappled with. I've done videos on this saying that the worst mistake that a person can make while investing is perhaps overconfidence, because then very confidently you make mistakes, and when you're completely wrong, you're very confident that you're right in a situation where you're completely wrong, and that can be very, very dangerous, right? So you have to be very careful about such big mistakes. So what is the opposite of being overconfident? It is perhaps being depressed. So if you have to get depressed to be a good investor, I don't think it's a good bargain. So first of all, I don't know how you can be very really over optimistic or even optimistic when you keep looking at the mistakes that you make. If you go on to the past and say, okay, I made this mistake, I made this mistake, I made this mistake, when the new transaction comes to you, you keep wondering, will I lose money? Because after a particular stage, your first question is, will I lose money? If the answer is yes, then straight away you say, I will not be investing at all. Or you say, okay, I can invest say 5 lakhs because I can afford to lose 5 lakhs, and I will give myself a 6-month frame or a 3-month frame in which to watch what I am doing. Or say, I will not invest now, I will watch this share over a period of 2-3 months and then I will buy. All these are answers to the fact that you have to be overconfident or you should not be overconfident. They say there are some professions which are not over optimistic ever. One of that is that of a geologist, that of a weather predictor, and an accountant. An accountant by nature is conservative. He cannot afford to be over optimistic. Though of course when you see companies which are fudging accounts, then you realize it is not the accountant at work, but it is the promoter at work. The accountant is just being a tool in doing what the promoter wants him to do, right, or her to do. So one way of avoiding overconfidence and depression is by getting a feedback on whatever you are doing. So an accountant gets a feedback almost immediately on the accounts that he makes. An accountant is also pulled by various directions. There is a regulator, then there is a tax authority, then there is a shareholder, then there is a potential shareholder, there is an existing shareholder, then there is a promoter, then there are unions, then there are employees. So you cannot afford to be very wrong in your assumptions or over optimistic in your assumptions, because all these people are pulling in various directions. Whereas your own investments, you can afford to be over optimistic, fit into your confirmation bias, and you're very vulnerable to those kind of problems. So what can you really do about it? First of all, understand that over optimism, or optimism at least, is definitely a way of life, because if we all were to worry about the mistakes that we make and do just that, we would get into a depression. So to avoid depression, you have to be optimistic, but being over optimistic is not a good thing for an investor to do. So you could be overconfident or you could be depressed. The most overconfident people make huge mistakes while doing their investment, and depressed people anyway don't invest, right? So the depressed person does not need any help in investing, because he also does not invest. So there is that line which you have to draw between optimism, feedback, and the ability to invest, right? You don't want to get into a depression trying to be becoming a good investor. Trading off our mental health for happiness is not really a good bargain. It is definitely a bad bargain. And the overconfident investor runs into a brick wall when there is a bear market. He keeps buying at lower prices, and then by the time he realizes or she realizes that they are in the bear market, they've already sunk a lot of money. I think the best thing is to get a feedback on your portfolio on a regular basis. If you can hire somebody who will look at your portfolio, look at their portfolio construct, including overweight on say pharma, or overweight on something like travel or something like that, those indicators should be there for the person doing the review, and a person who has created the portfolio should not be the person doing a portfolio review, the maker checker kind of a thing. So if you are a very, very equity oriented guy, get a debt oriented guy to do your overall asset allocation and portfolio evaluation, etc., right? it seems to be simple to do a calibration and just receiving feedback against that. Unfortunately, in the stock market, it may not be so simple, because instantaneous feedback is not available, which will allow you to calibrate yourself. And secondly, we don't like data. When we don't like a particular data, we don't even seek it. We'll forget taking action based on that. So it's not easy to get a feedback the way a driver gets. When a driver is driving and he presses the accelerator, he gets an immediate impact, right? So he knows what will happen, what cannot happen, and he also knows whether he needs to go fast or go slow. Whereas in equity investing, some feedback you may get after a very long period of time. So that is one of the problems. And even the weatherman, if you see, gets the feedback immediately. He knows that he's made a mistake, so he can just go and immediately apologize, which perhaps makes him more vulnerable to overconfidence. So therefore he uses far more data than just his own gut feeling and things like that, which again comes from overconfidence. Being well calibrated is definitely a teachable and learnable skill. So you should learn how to calibrate and how to handle your own overconfidence without it impacting your investing. Or don't be so pessimistic that you get into a depression. And more importantly, don't rely just on your memory, because your memory keeps saying, oh, this was a great investment. Maybe it doubled in 1 year, but 3 years later, if it is there, it means it has doubled in 3 years, which means it's a 24% return. Make no mistake, it's a great one. But when the 3 goes to 5, 6 or 7, then you realize, oh, this is a return that you could have got even from a national savings certificate. So question is, maybe you just need a 2% real return, and 2% real return is capable of creating a large amount of wealth, provided N is long enough. So if you decide to stay long enough, then a small alpha is enough. In fact, you may not even need that much of alpha, right? Every time using probability to get a perfect answer is very difficult, and your personal judgment will have to come and play a role. So be careful about how optimistic and but one thing is for sure, the more and more feedback that you get from peers, from competitors, from family, from the people whose money you're managing, the better you get at it. You then also develop strong willpower to say, this I will do, this I will not do. This is a company located in this place. Yes, I'm getting data to the contrary, or information to the contrary, but I'll stick to it for some more time. At least know what you're doing. For example, I know one sales head in an industry who is now dramatically pressed for better sales happening in UP, because his logic is, if the per capita income is going up so fast, then I better take a punt in that market, or rather I go and sell something in that market. So he's collecting a lot of data from UP and saying, I hope to sell 50% more than what I sold last year, right? This is the way to look at it. I think I'm done. Thank you.